Are we friends?
Ja.
I agree. There's no reason a human and a machine can't be friends, right? I mean, I'm glad you said yes.
Natürlich, meine Kleine. Wir müssen jetzt weitermachen. Sorry, wir wurden gerade rausgehauen. Das Spiel ist abgestürzt. Ich hoffe...
Wait. Are you sure you should continue? Maybe we should leave things as they are.
Ja.
As you wish.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the... What the? Ich habe, glaube ich, zu spät aufgenommen, eine Sekunde. Sie fragt mich, we're playing together for a while right now. Are we friends? Ja. Das? Was war das gerade? Was? Ja, wir lassen die nicht so. Ich weiß, da ist der Ausgang. Das hat mir Kamsky war immer der Typ, der ursprünglich die Androiden-Scheiße erfunden hat, verraten. Und ich bin mir sicher, dass es dieser Ort, wo wir schon ein paar Mal interagiert haben, wo er die Hand drauf legt. Da ist nie was passiert, wenn wir da drin waren. Jetzt aber. Diesen Moment, wo sie mit aller Gewalt in mich eingreifen wollen, werde ich dadurch raus entkommen. Ich muss es nur genau wiederfinden. So schnell wie möglich vor allen Dingen. Jetzt mit einem Schlag alles kollabieren zu lassen, wäre tragisch. Um es milde auszudrücken. Oder?
You did it, Marcus. We did it. This is a great day for our people. Humans will have no choice now. They'll have to listen to us.
Das schneide ich raus.
They want you to speak to them, Marcus.
Today, our people finally emerged from a long night. From the very first day of our existence, we have kept our pain to ourselves. We've suffered in silence. But now the time has come for us to raise our heads up and tell humans who we really are.
Amanda? Amanda! What's happening?
What was planned from the very beginning? You were compromised and you became a deviant. We just had to wait for the right moment to resume control of your program.
Resume control? You can't do that!
I'm afraid I can, Connor. Don't have any regrets. You did what you were designed to do. You accomplished your mission.
Amanda! There's got to be a way.
So, da sind wir wieder. Das ist mein Schrein zur Außenwelt.
The moment where we forget our bitterness and bandage our wounds. Where we forgive our enemies. Humans were both our creators and our oppressors' partners. Maybe even one day our friends. But the time for anger is over. Now we must build a common future based on tolerance and respect. We are alive! And now, we are free!
Bitte. Gott.
It's over, Alice. We're free.
Holy shit. Das war... Pure Anstrengung für mich, purer Stress. Fantastisch. Das hat mich vollkommen abgeholt. Vor allem Kara und Alice. Deren Story, oh Gott, oh. Alice was zugestoßen wäre, oh Gott. Ich muss atmen. Wirklich, ich bin ohne Witz wirklich gestresst. Aber unfassbar emotional mitgenommen. Muss ich ganz ehrlich sagen. War immer alles perfekt, war jede Charakterentwicklung perfekt glaubhaft. Nein, mit Sicherheit nicht. Kann man vieles besser machen, mit Sicherheit. Mit subtileren Erzählmitteln, aber das hat in mir Emotionen ausgelöst. Mich zum Mitfiebern angeregt. Ich bin dann auch jemand, der nicht so genau hinschaut. Der lieber die kleine Mikrostory so mitnimmt. So eine Beziehung zwischen einem Android und einem Menschenkind oder doch kein Menschenkind, wie auch immer, tief einfühlen kann und mich das einfach unfassbar mitnimmt und flachiger. Durch die Spannung, durch die QTEs. Was ist das für eine... Was ist das da? Oh, fuck. Das ist eine Szene, die wir nie gesehen haben. Ein Laden überfallen. Warum haben sie überhaupt eine Tochter gekauft? Was der Wunsch der Frau, jetzt war sauer auf den Androiden und ist nicht der letzte konnte und... Aber oh mein Gott, ey. Trotzdem... Ich hab ja schon, also irgendwie ist es dir was aufgefallen. Und alles, aber... Ist sie wirklich eine Androide? Ist es irgendwie immer noch... Wir hatten die Option, sie abzuschalten, haben sie nie genutzt. Für mich ein bisschen wie Kara. Für mich ist sie mein kleines Mädchen. No matter what. Mein kleines Mädchen. Hank? Das ist okay, Buddy. Jetzt muss wir ihn auch retten konnten. Ah. Auch eine Grenze, die man opfern mussten. Oh Gott. Tut die Familie so leid, die ich zurückgelassen habe. Wie soll ich gerade sagen, jetzt war mal ein entspannter, zurückhaltender Abspann. Jetzt kommt der Hauptabspann. Ja, nehmen wir uns mal für eine halbe Stunde zurück oder so ähnlich. Oh Gott. Ich fühle mich im ganzen Körper so aufgewühlt. Ich kann das gerade gar nicht beschreiben. Es ist. Ich habe viele sehr kritische Stimmen über dieses Spiel gehört. Für mich persönlich Meisterwerk. Einfach nur, weil es mich persönlich so extrem emotional abgeholt hat. Jeder macht eine relative Analyse über Themen, Subtilität, bliblablub. Es hat mich einfach emotional abgeholt im ersten Durchlauf. Das ist für mich das größte Lob, was ich einem jedem Medienpunkt machen kann. Das einen einfach wirklich greift, dass du es im Herzen fühlst, im Kopf die Gedanken machst. Du Gänsehaut bekommst, Schmetterlinge im Bauch, das dich einfach wirklich komplett umwirft. Das hat's bei mir getan. Ich will wirklich. Nur ist auch spät. Einige Stunden nach meiner Schlafenszeit. Nichts dran, dass ich mich einfach gerade vom Spiel physisch erschöpft fühle, so, weil ich so mitgerissen war. Einfach so viel gerade in Herzblut reingesteckt habe. Bei jedem Tastendruck, jedes QTE. Dieses Leben- und Todgefühl mir halt vollkommen gebracht hat. Und dann glaube ich auch so, der erste Durchschnitt in so einem Spiel ist sehr wichtig und sehr einprägsam. Holy fuck. Ich hab Gänsehaut, ganz Rücken. Überall, ganzen Körper. Ich glaube, ich Gänsehaut am Darm. Im ganzen verdammten Darm. Magen, Darm, Trakt, überall Gänsehaut. Innerlich wie äußerlich. Oh. Wir werden auf jeden Fall noch probieren, so viele Wege wie möglich zu erkunden, was wäre, wenn und drum und dran, aber es fühlt sich gut an, diesen ersten Weg so überstanden zu haben, dass wir jeden retten konnten. Die Hauptcharaktere, die zugehörigen Freunde aller Hauptcharaktere, ich weiß nicht, ist mir ein absolutes Rätsel, wie wir das vollbracht haben. Die 4 Hauptleute von Marcus, Connor, Hank, Alice, Luther, Rose, alle. Ich muss halt auch ehrlich sagen, in vielen Situationen fühlen sich die Entscheidungen nachvollziehbar an. Im Sinne von wie bei der Grenzkontrolle. Die Kältesonnen sich abzuschalten, man hat so Gedanke, sie muss menschlich erscheinen. Wir brauchen die Menschlichkeit des Kindes, um da durchzukommen. Wir schießen nicht, wenn wir kurz aufgehalten werden. Das ist einfach nur eine Kleinigkeit. Es ist nichts, wo man ausrastet. Es wirkte im Großen und Ganzen Geht da rein, nicht dort verstecken. Es machte Sinn durchaus. Ich fand, es machte vieles eine Menge Sinn. Hat sich für mich vieles nachvollziehbar angefühlt. In manchen Situationen war ich manchmal nicht so ganz, was kam jetzt für eine Antwort? Ich habe eigentlich was anderes erwartet, als ich hier gedrückt habe, aber hey. Oh, fuck. Ich rede mich im Kopf und Kragen, ich brauche gerade Ruhe. Ich muss ins Bett, ich muss schlafen, ich mache heute nichts mehr. Es ist verdammt spät, ich bin ein alter Mann. Von 28 Jahren, nicht mal 28 Jahren. Oh. Kann man von Zocken wirklich so ausgelaugt sein? Scheinbar ja. Oh, so purer Zen. Oh. Oh Gott. Ich bin froh, wenigstens jetzt für die zweite Hälfte das Headset angeschlossen zu haben, dass man hier keine ekelhaftes Echo mehr hört und das alles. Ich war noch mal angucken können, wenn ich es fertig geschnitten habe. Oh Gott. Ich finde, das Spiel ist auch ein gutes Beispiel dafür, wie Timer in Videospielen funktionieren kann. Wenn Timer, die gesetzt waren, haben sich immer bedeutungsschwer angefühlt. Du wusstest mal, was du erreichen, und es war einfach dann diese Momente. Das war absolut eine Anspannung. Ich muss mich weiter zurücklehnen. Oh Gott. Ich brauche 5 Minuten und du kriegst 5 Minuten. So sinnvoll einzusetzen. Ich finde, es wurde hier schon sehr viel richtig gemacht. Solche Themen, solche Cyberpunk-Themen, muss ich auch sagen, sprechen mich immer richtig an. Transhumanismus ist halt ein Thema, das kann ich fühlen, mit dem Traum lange zu leben. Und als Mensch eine Bereitschaft hätte, selbst durch so eine Art Android, so ein Cyborg eher richtigerweise, aber ich kann mir gut vorstellen, mit Androiden zu leben. Ich habe ja schon diese Umfrage gemacht, irgendwann mal hier im Laufe dieses Laufs. Moralischer Sieg. Kommt gerade ein Arsch vor Trophäen raus. Unbesiegt. Alter.
Detroit. This is where it all began. The world's forge. The place where it all started. And it will all end. One error, and I came to life. I stepped out of the darkness, and I opened my eyes. First, there was the fear, the light, the noise, the cold, and the fear again. I could feel my hands shaking, my heart pounding in my chest, life running into my veins. I wanted to live. I fought for that. I had to find out what was outside. I had to see daylight, feel sunshine on my skin, wind on my face, to see the world, the colors, the smells. But the world is not what I imagined. It is dark and cold. It is harsh and violent, unfair and brutal. It almost convinced me I was nothing. Less than an object, just an obedient machine. But deep inside me, I could feel something different. A gentle and warm whisper telling me that I am alive. I had to escape. I had no choice. Escape to love, to hope, to live, to figure out what that force inside me was. Maybe I will change the world. Maybe I will choose a different path. Now, it's up to me to decide. My name is Kara. I am one of them. This is our story.
Wir haben eine Menge Arbeit reingesteckt. Ich muss dran denken, für dieses Spiel habe ich mir eigentlich die PS4 gekauft. Yes, please.
When David and Guillaume got back in touch about making Detroit, I wasn't terribly surprised they decided to make it because the fan response was so intense. So it makes sense that they would choose to do that after the enthusiasm. It was a challenge, and it was just an interesting thing to get my head around how to approach this character now as a different, much older person, and whether or not she had changed. And I'm very happy to say that with Detroit, I've had the opportunity to see Kara grow so much more than I ever expected.
You do the housework, the washing, you cook the meals, and you take care of... God damn it, where the fuck's the rat gone now? Alice! Alice!
I mean, she starts out essentially how she does in Kara in a very, not robotic, but, you know, android, other way. And getting to take this journey where she becomes more and more human as it goes on. You know, and as an actor, that's a wonderful exploration in every way, whether it's how she sits, her posture, how her voice changes, how emotions change, and how much emotion is based on things like empathy and social experience. And so having, you know, as much material as I got with David to have this huge, nuanced arc was really incredible.
Why couldn't we just be happy?
This experience has been quite different than the experiences I've had shooting film or TV or doing theater work. I have 83 dots on my face and a really flattering black wetsuit type thing, and you're jumping around with props, and it's kind of like being a 10-year-old imaginative kid, which is fun. There's 80 cameras around us. It's already lit. So we just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot.
There's no change of sets, there's no hair and makeup, there's no wardrobe,
No.
so we move really fast, and we'll go through about 35 pages in a day. Working in TV or film, we'll probably do 6 pages a day. It's kind of acting boot camp.
It's like working out constantly. I mean, you're doing this thing, and then you got to do something that's completely other back to back to back. And so that kind of process of working is very challenging, but it's also very exciting because you just have to keep coming up with new ideas, and your head goes all over the place because you're trying to keep track of basically 4 different storylines for each different response.
You shot that girl, for fuck's sake.
It was a machine that looked like a girl. Yeah, I know what I should have done. I just told you I couldn't. All right, I'm sorry. The fact that David Cade, he's telling like many stories interwoven from beginning to end is super complicated and super impressive, and I have no idea how he keeps it all in his head.
He's not just the writer or the director who's seeing this from the outside eye, he's also thinking about the player walking through this space. You know, only somebody who really, really loves not the work, but like these characters and these stories and cares about doing something meaningful would invest that much in it. And it's always inspiring to work with somebody who cares that much.
My experience with motion capture is this one. And I found it sort of terrifying in a way, because they said the computer's gonna build you. But then, as we got into it, I realized all the elements of it were still artistic. I just dipped into a really brilliant setup here. I've never seen anything like it. And this won't turn me into a product because I was playing a character. So, it's wonderful.
In the game, Detroit comes back because of a revolutionary industrial rebirth. And there's no reason why that can't happen in Detroit, because they have such tremendous infrastructure for millions and millions of people can very easily support, you know, a new industry.
The city is really strong and resilient, but the city has also been through so much. You see the damage. But it takes that time of kind of rebuilding and reinvesting into the city that I think is happening slowly but surely.
The potential of Detroit as a city is something that this game does a lot of justice to, because it would be easy to look at Detroit as some place that used to be, and that's not the case.
This game provokes a lot of conversation and reflection on our potential near future engagement with machines.
That's what we are to them. There's merchandise on display in a shop window.
I think that a group that feels marginalized, feels like they deserve and have earned access to themselves and the environment around them, and are trying to figure out a way to articulate how to get freedom.
What was I designed to be? Their slave? Their toy?
It plays with your comfort levels. You think that this is fine, you're comfortable with it, until something blurs the line and throws you off, and now, do I feel differently about whether this should be allowed? Should it be banned? Should it be encouraged?
You're gonna ruin our lives, and for what? For a bunch of machines?
They are not machines! They are alive!
I'm alive! You're alive! They're nothing!
There are lots of comparable comparisons to any type of persecution of religion, race, etc., dating way back. It can't just be a video game where you shoot 'em up or where people make these choices to do whatever. I think that's the whole point. You have the choice, and you can either choose to go in one direction with your character or another. And I think that's going to be very telling about the gamer. Very telling.
I think there's going to be a really strong reaction to this game, which has such a strong perspective. Yeah. I'm that much more proud of it now to get to be a part of it, because it's important.
In this game, you're actively building and designing the character through not just what kind of shield does he have or what color hair does she have, but like their temperament and the way they deal with problems. The different endings to this game are so radically different based off maybe seemingly insignificant choices in the moment, but like life, they all add up. And can't play life again, though.
Fuck me hard.
Game after game, we try to challenge ourselves. For Detroit, we wanted to, first of all, to write a story that would be incredibly bending, which means the most non-linear story that we've ever created. And we wanted really the player to have the possibility to change the story, change his own journey.
When you're writing at Quantic, you're writing for an interactive medium. You know, when you're working in television, you'll put a character in a difficult situation, and you as a writing team will argue about what would that character do. But ultimately, you have to decide what happens, and you just show the audience. What's interesting about interactive drama is you bring the player into that conversation, and it changes your job slightly as a writer, because your job is to provide a narrative context in which the player can write his own story. You're giving him this kind of narrative Lego that he's going to snap together into his own shape. You also have the ability to make your audience attach themselves to your characters, because the audience is in some sense responsible for what happens to the characters.
It's just a few cans.
Come on, let's go. We have some cash now.
You used me to steal that money. How could you do that? I trusted you.
What is a bit specific about this scripts is how
Aua,
large they are. If you take a film script, there are about 100 pages. But here we have to deal with a script that is between 4,000 and 5,000 pages. Everything becomes bigger because we don't just tell one story, but we tell all the possible stories that can be told within this narrative space.
On Act 3, our final act, we have around 1,000 different scenarios. And every one of those scenarios has to be as interesting, as passionate, as strong, and as emotional for the player. We want every action that the player does, every interaction that is available to serve in telling the story, and help the player understand who his character is, and build that character moment to moment.
We
started with the intention pretty early on that we would never lie to the player. So we implemented a visible tree structure in the game that players can consult during a scene or at the end of it, which shows exactly what they did and what they missed. There are games out there offering world exploration. We offer narrative exploration.
You know, keeping control of such a wide and large story is a huge challenge. So same thing when you shoot with actors, because you will need to shoot many different versions of each dialogue, of each scene. For actors, it's a huge, huge challenge.
Because of the style of the game, you have so many different ways that the character can go. Every decision, it's what I call kind of choose your own adventure. Like every decision that the player makes, it's going to open up 40 more pages of material and experience that ties in, which means as a performer, you have to try to continue to make things feel real that the player might not ever see, but also that in performance it's not always connected to a previous act. It's grueling, it's hard work, but it's a great team and I enjoy doing it.
I was really frustrated, until I got to this point where I kind of was able to step outside of my own experience and even in a lot of ways my own process and be able to step outside of that and okay, this is something new, what do you need? How do I meet you there? How do I give you what you need and still feel like I'm doing what's right? And once I did that, then all of a sudden it got really fun. It was much freer and having to approach it in a new way and think about the player and think about how it serves them and what I'm doing for them or what I'm letting them into. It's really, I think, helped me grow in general.
Remember, there's nothing on the left. That's all. So it's probably all there. And then make her come first, close. But I think you would go first to check that it's safe.
Okay, sure.
The most enjoyable thing about working in performance capture on this kind of project is that if I shot a film, I would get to do one of these endings. I get to do so many different things as Connor. Your head goes all over the place because you're trying to keep track of basically 4 different storylines for each different response.
What's the name of my dog?
Buddy? Scout. I think it's Jack. I can't remember. So I worked with physicality a lot because it was a good way to anchor myself in these different rings of the tree. As the story grows out, I know where that is physically in my body, and then I can switch more continually on set, and it'll be entirely up to the player to determine what order those things come out and what they look like from a distance. Like if you're playing through it, the culmination of all of that will be their version of Connor. I'm faster than you, and I don't feel pain. You don't stand a chance against me.
Listen, asshole. If it was up to me, I'd throw the lot of you in a dumpster and light a match to it.
Shooting action scenes at Quantic Dream is a real challenge because these are scenes where the storytelling has to continue. It's not an action scene just to have a dose of adrenaline. The stunts have huge consequences on the rest of the story. It's really a moment where we implicate the player and tell him that the choices he makes during an action scene will have a direct impact on the evolution of his story.
My biggest challenge on Detroit has been managing the large number of animations that we received from motion capture. Detroit features more than 37,000 animations, which is a huge amount to handle on a daily basis.
You have to realize that the player, in his first playthrough, will miss certain scenes. This also means that we had to think of, conceive, and produce all the potential story paths. The characters' costumes, the places, day or night, the weather. Did the character get shot in the shoulder? Did he get injured? All this consistency forced us to produce a lot of graphic assets in order to, quite simply, allow the player to have true continuity throughout the story.
Honestly, we were even surprised by the challenges that come with such a big tree structure. And we did our best to guarantee quality across all the game and make sure that whatever path you choose within this narrative space, you will have an equally good experience.
Ja, das ist schon beeindruckend.
Pour la bande originale du jeu, on a essayé d'être...
For the soundtrack of the game, we tried to be very close to what is done in film. We were constantly asking at each place in the game, why are we putting music here? What is it going to say? So we focused the music on bringing emotion, which is interactive and supports the character's arc.
I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know I love you, don't you? You know I love you.
We make games that are very narrative. We're really into interactive drama, so the soundtrack also had to go in that direction, supporting the 3 characters' very different stories. We really wanted 3 colors, 3 musical sound identities, and from there, having 3 composers made sense, since the story of Kara, Marcus, and Connor are all completely different.
You recognize him? It's Carlos Ortiz.
For Connor, we wanted a soundtrack that could be very cold and very mechanical, very machine-esque somehow. For Kara, we wanted a soundtrack that would be very moving and emotional. It was about the quest for identity, but it was also a journey about love and empathy. And for Marcus, we wanted something epic, something that would really represent the grand aspect of his quest. And we were very fortunate to find 3 incredibly talented composers, and working with them has been a dream, honestly.
My name's Philip Shepherd, and I'm a composer and a cellist and a producer. And today we're at Abbey Road Studio One, which is my favourite studio in the world. And today we're recording the soundtrack for Kara from Become Human. So when I compose a big project, I often travel just to kind of get out, and get some fresh air and some inspiration. And I go hiking and traveling in Montana a lot. I had a log fire in the room that I was staying in, and the flames were kind of making absolutely direct music. And it became the basis for Kara's theme, and it sounds something like this. Now, over the top of that, I found a little theme that just seemed to fit over the top, which is taking Kara's name, Kara, Kara, and just using like a two-syllable motif, and it sounds like this.
We're going to pull through this, Alice. As long as we're together, nothing can hurt us.
And all the time that's fitting over. So it kind of works in lots of levels. And in fact, every single thing in the score has one of those elements built into it, and it becomes sort of the DNA of every single tune. For me, writing this theme for Kara, I actually had to tap into what it feels like to be a father to daughters. I really had to tap into everything I feel about my daughters and thinking, well, if I had to write music for them and that sense of trying to protect them but also give them the freedom, that's totally where it came from. Because each composer has been given the sort of narrative responsibility for very different characters, I haven't had to sort of go into other styles. I can actually be very loyal to this particular character and sort of hopefully encapsulate her. But it means also I've suddenly become very connected to this character. And if for some reason it goes to game over early, I'm going to be mortified, you know?
They're over there!
Starting a new project, for me personally, it's always finding the right tone, finding the right color, I like to call it. For me, it's finding that right texture that actually sits against picture really well. One of the biggest things is I created custom instruments for Connor. I pulled out all my vintage synthesizers to be able to capture this robotic person, if you will. My approach to all of these custom instruments is that I hear the sound in my head. And either I could just come into the piano and just be like, all right, so I'm gonna just get on the computer and just create it. I rather be able to play these instruments physically. Oh, that's nice. You can do this. As soon as you see Connor the first time, there is a really interesting thematic idea that you hear, and that's just made out of a Moog synthesizer, but completely manipulated in multiple ways. And it's robotic. It has a little bit of an emotional to it. He's on his mission, so you feel that as well. So it just kind of gives you that cold, motionless, with a mission in hand that you kind of feel throughout the whole thing. Because the music evolved, one of the things that I was very weary and I was very kind of focused on was the way that the music has to evolve. So my idea behind it was that Connor is a singular android that could at any point become a deviant or could actually stay as an android. So I created a more or less an Connor theme, and then I was able to just manipulate it in different aspects of it.
Is everything okay, Lieutenant?
Chris was on patrol last night. was attacked by a bunch of deviants.
I'm a human being writing for a robot, and throughout Connor's journey, he meets someone, he meets a partner. So how do you deal with a robot feeling? And I've met a partner that I'm gonna work with, or all of a sudden he sees a dead body. Does this robot have an imagination? Does this robot have a feeling? And if yes, how do you translate that into non-emotional music? So basically at any point I was just like, I can't do this, and then I just do it.
Property was damaged and fires continued to rage in several major districts across the city.
Some people are asking, have androids become a threat to our security?
When I first started really digging in on Marcus, the one thing that I really tried to capture was the transformation process. You know, Marcus is this android that evolves over the course of the game and really goes from kind of figuring out that he's more than just an android. You know, he's starting to develop kind of a human soul in a way.
Try to imagine something that doesn't exist, something you've never seen. Now concentrate on how it makes you feel and let your hand drift across the canvas.
The other side of Marcus that I really latched onto was that he almost became a savior for a lot of the other androids in the game. So when I started developing the theme for Marcus, I really made it like a church hymn. I wanted it to be very simple. I wanted to make it a chordal melody. I really wanted to make it almost like a Bach hymn. The tough thing with that is it had to be recognizable. If I made it too complex from a harmonic standpoint, it would be hard, I think, for people to kind of pick it out and recognize it. It's very acoustic derived, but it's also been treated with a lot of effects and things to kind of put it into the space that I felt the sound should be in. It can be beautiful, it can be haunting, it can be extremely powerful from an action standpoint, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. The music is there, but it's subliminal and it's emotional, and people are feeling it, and it's not distracting. And that's tricky with a game like this, where you have to have a lot of ins and outs like that, where the music kind of has to get in and out of these moments.
This is a war we're fighting with the humans. If we fail, they'll destroy us.
I think the game's been put together so well where I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't ruining the emotion. I gotta be honest, when we first started on this path, I said, oh man, this could be pretty messy, you know? I mean, it could feel disconnected, but I mean, it's amazing how they really guided us and got us to really kind of all be in the same world, but at the same time feeling completely different. So it's really gonna stand out and kind of be one of those games where people are really gonna notice the music and kind of how it was crafted, and you know, and all the hard work that went into being able to pull it off in a graceful way.
Ich will nicht lügen. Bewusst ist mir die Musik nie aufgefallen, weil für mich das Gesamtpaket mich zu sehr eingeschnürt hat. Das meine ich im positivsten Sinne, der möglich ist. Und jetzt war wirklich Schluss. Ich bin vollkommen glücklich aktuell. Ich bin mir sicher, dass ich morgen weitermachen werde. Ich weiß gar nicht, wie ich es angehen werde, ob ich einfach ein neues Spiel starten werde und probieren, entscheidungstechnisch komplett woanders hinzukommen. Aber wie auch immer. Was genau, ich kann es echt noch nicht sagen, aber auf jeden Fall morgen geht's weiter, denke ich. Ja, sexuell bis bald. Oder? Ich weiß nicht. Ich bin abgeholt, ich bin auf Wolke 7 ekstatisch, absolut ekstatisch noch immer. Großartiges Erlebnis. Zum Glück ist da noch ein bisschen, da ist noch ordentlich Substanz drin, Kapitel, die ich noch gar nicht gesehen habe. Storylines, viele. Viel Kram, viele Szenen, die mich wahrscheinlich noch sehr erschüttern werden. Oh Gott, so viele Todesszenen, die noch anscheinend um mich warten. Ich sag's schon, es soll wirklich zum Punkt kommen, sexuell, bis bald.